All right, it's day one of Soul Detox SOS. 1 day down, 14 days to go. So we are on a mission. We're on a mission to increase our total well-being, beginning with our soul. Now today we have been focusing on why the soul is so important. When this session ends, join us over on Zoom. You can catch the link through Eventbrite for what I'm calling deeper contact, so we can work through the study guide together. So what are toxins? Toxins are contaminants, pollutants, invaders, hijackers that are designed to hinder, suppress, and deny our authenticity. So here's the thing. Some toxicity has its root in sin. But then there is other toxicity, pollutants, invaders, all of that I just mentioned. There's some toxicity that has its root in trauma, and some are the wounds from our past, the pain of losses, griefs, the weight of stress, the frustration of unrealized dreams, relationships that didn't last, things that didn't go well, general self-neglect. The list goes on and on. Now, we will not spend a lot of time talking about toxicity as it relates to sin. Not because we're not sinners and not because we shouldn't deal with and address sin, but because here's what I believe. I believe that sin is ultimately a reflection and a revelation of something that is actually occurring in our soul. So if that's true, if my thinking is correct, then sin is the fruit, but the soul is the root. Now I want you to write that down somewhere in your journal. Sin is the fruit, the soul is the root. So behavior modification is something that some psychologists and sociologists, and it is also something that the church has disguised as deliverance. And this comes down to a type of salvation by works teaching, which of course is ultimately very, very dangerous, and it is also not biblical. So the real work, okay, the true work must be done not in the area, not in the area of behavior modification, but the true work has to be done in the area, listen, of identifying and dealing with what's going on in our souls. Let's say that again. The real work has to be done in the area of dealing with and identifying what's going on in our souls. If I can get in touch with what's occurring in my soul. Why am I frustrated? Why am I tired? Why am I stressed? Why am I taxed? Why am I burdened? If I can get a handle on what's going on in my soul, and if I can bring healing and relief to my soul, then ultimately, whatever adjustments or patterns I need to make concerning decisions, actions, and behavior, those things will necessarily follow suit. But if my focus is simply modifying my behavior without bringing correction to my soul, without addressing the things that are lurking in my soul, then what happens? Then we become vulnerable to relapse in our behavior. When I say behavior, I'm talking about behavior as a whole. Decisions that we make, responses, actions, inactions, procrastination, aggression, all of that, and we're going to deal with some of that later this week. So there's a difference between self-care and soul care. Self-care is taking care of yourself. Soul care is taking care of yourself and not feeling guilty for taking care of yourself. Soul care is believing that you are worthy and that you are capable of self-care. The soul is so important. Write Mark chapter 8 and verse 36 down. I'm going to read it to you. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul. So the scriptures express that Jesus is concerned about the health, the well-being, and the nature of our souls. Now, if I'm looking through dirty glasses, then everything I look at will appear to be dirty. The same is true with the soul. Self-care is the act. Soul care is the thoughts and the feelings of joy, empowerment, affirmation, peace, permission, excitement, and the overall attitude behind the act of caring for our souls. So then what is the soul? Okay? So the soul is your mind, it is your will, and it is your emotions. We'll dive a little deeper into that later in the week. How does the soul work? How should we take care of our souls? Those are some of the questions we're going to begin to address on this day one. So how does the soul work? I like to consider the soul to be like the cloud, the digital cloud, okay? You know, you can store your pictures in the cloud and your emails and your photographs in the cloud. So I like to consider or look at the soul as being similar to the cloud. Every conversation you have, everything you ever experienced, everything you have experienced, going all the way back into your childhood up until right before you logged on here with us today. Every great day you have had, every not so great day you have had, every argument, every decision, every bout of grief, every setback, every joyful moment, all of these things are uploaded into the cloud, i.e., uploaded into your soul. They stay there, they remain there unless and until they are dealt with and processed in a healthy manner. Now, over time, as you begin to have other experiences, your brain downloads the emotions from the previous experience out of your soul, out of your cloud. So when the energy of that emotion comes back to you, if it is overwhelming, if you have not processed it in a healthy way, then that energy oftentimes finds a place to lurk in your body. And over time, that energy that becomes trapped begins to distort and irritate your internal tissues and organs. If this happens long enough, medical science has proven this, that if this happens long enough in the tissue and the organ, then it will begin to have challenges and sometimes develop into what we call cancer. So there are some physical ailments that are actually the result of experiences that have not been processed in a healthy manner that are still clogged and trapped in our soul, i.e. the cloud. So what are some of the signs of unresolved trauma? What are some of the signs of experiences that have not been processed in a healthy manner? Addictive behaviors is one sign. So addictive behaviors is when we excessively turn to drugs, alcohol, sex, food, gambling, social media, shopping, and etc. And it becomes a way for us to push difficult emotions into a corner. But what we're actually doing is we are suppressing them further in our soul and creating an opportunity for us to be hindered in living our happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life. Another symptom is the inability to tolerate conflict. So conflict is an unavoidable part of life, and we cannot help but have conflict. But when we are not processing our emotions in a healthy way, then we run from conflict, we avoid conflict, or we always are assigning ourselves as being the victim are operating in some way that is actually very skewed, but it helps to serve whatever superficial purposes we need it to serve. Another sign is the inability to tolerate intense feelings. So an inability to tolerate intense feelings is when we prefer to avoid feeling any particular way because we don't, i.e., want to deal with it. An innate belief that you are bad, or an innate belief that you're a terrible person. You're not a terrible person. You may have some challenges, but if you're holding on to an innate belief that you are a horrible, terrible person, that you are worthless, that you are without value, that you are incapable of loving, that you don't deserve to be loved, that is a sign of trauma that has been trapped in your soul, and it is a toxic indicator. Thinking along the lines of black and white. Everything in life, that's a sign. Everything in life is not black and white. There's some things that are actually gray and that fall in the middle. So those are just 5 symptoms of trauma that has not been processed in a healthy way. Experiences that were disappointing but have not been processed in a healthy way. Those are just 5 symptoms. So soul pollutants, let's talk about that. Your soul can become contaminated, polluted. It can become dark. It can become distressed. It can become diseased, just like any other part of your body that is neglected and battered by the get up and go, rush, 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 just do it now heartbeat of modern living. So when we think of the word detox, it is a simple process of eliminating not just certain foods, chemical substances, and we're doing that because we're fasting along with this soul detox. But on the other side of it, it is also an opportunity for us to put some distance between our normal routine in life and give ourselves an opportunity to look more introspectively into our spirits and in our souls, realizing that our soul impacts absolutely every part of our lives. And so by participating in this and fasting on top of it, not only might you lose a few pounds, but you're also giving your vital organs a rest from the very often decadent and gorge yourself mentality of the 21st century. You're giving your ear gates a rest because you're not listening to all of the things you normally would listen to. You're giving your eye gates a rest because you're not taking in a lot of technology or social media or anything of that nature right now. So you are positioning yourselves in a tremendous way to be able to reflect, reset, heal, recuperate, address, and get ready to live on the level of authenticity that you've been called to live on. So when we discover the need to detox our souls, then we are reminded that detoxing our souls also requires us to detox from all of these other things that I just mentioned: body, technology, mind, attention span, and the list goes on and on. So we're giving our souls a treatment or a process that is designed to rid our bodies, to rid our souls of the poisonous and contaminant substances. So, concerning why the soul is so important, turn to Psalm 23 and let's look at verse 3. Psalm 23 and verse 3. Psalm 23 and verse number 3. Okay? You know it well. It says, He restores my soul. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. So we're back to the very beginning. One of the reasons why your soul is so important is because it's important to the Lord. He has a very particular interest in our souls. Our soul is where we live. Our soul is what makes us who we are. Our soul is that place deep within us that propels us to greatness or settles us into a lifeless lull of routine living. Our soul, your soul, is what makes us experience joy, dance, sing, laugh. It's where we get and draw our strength from to press on, to keep hope, to live, to love, to care, to be compassionate, to empathize, get my words together, empathize, and most of all, to be resilient. So if our soul becomes toxified, then so does the very essence of our living. Remember I said a few moments ago, if I'm looking through dirty glasses, then everything I look at appears to be dirty. So if my soul is toxified, then it impacts the very essence of my entire living. What are some of the reasons why we should care for our souls? Well, one of the reasons why we should care for our souls is our soul is the most important part of who we are. We cease to exist without a soul. Our soul is the most important part of who we are. I read a quote by author John Ortberg. He's the writer of Soul Keeping. And he says that the soul is the coolest, eeriest, most mysterious, evocative, sacred, eternal, life-directing, fragile, indestructible, controversial, expensive dimension of our existence. Jesus pointed out to his disciples this very same thing, the very same reality concerning the souls. And that's what we just read in John chapter 8 a few moments ago, where it is written, what does it profit if someone gains the whole world and loses his soul? So the soul is important, and our soul deserves care because it is the most important part of who we are. That's why I gave you or sent you that text this morning and your first soul detox tip, that you are the most important project that you will ever be able to work on. Matthew chapter 16 and verse 26. Write that down. Matthew 16 and verse 26 says, what will a man give in exchange for their soul? So nothing in the world is more important than our souls. Yet, how often do we neglect this crucial part of us? Or perhaps we just haven't been trained to value and appreciate it in the way that we should. Here's another reason. Your soul is the part of you that is eternal, okay? Your soul is the part of you that is eternal. Everything else will fade and pass away, but your soul will live on forever. Your soul will last forever. God himself created this part of you to be with him. And after our bodies don't serve us anymore, that part of us will still find eternity somewhere. So caring for your soul has the ability to impact your eternal resting place as it relates to life and death goes. A third reason why our soul deserves and needs care is the state of our soul. It affects the rest of your life, okay? So your soul, it may not announce that it needs care. It may not necessarily tell you, hey, give me some attention, or that is tired, or what have you. And you might be able to paste a smile on your face sometimes, But how many times have you pasted a smile on your face and inside you felt like you were dying? Or inside you felt like the weight of the world was on you, or inside you were just miserable. You were not happy. Being able to care for your soul, being able to nurture your soul, understanding the importance and the value of resting your soul and addressing any toxicity that exists in your soul is critical. Because when we do this, it helps us to restore the level of joy and peace, relational success. It impacts the words that we speak, and the list goes on and on. A fourth reason why our souls need and deserve care is that a healthy soul enables us to love and serve the people in our lives that we love. Listen, when our souls are weak, we crave attention. We get into attention-seeking behavior. We may become self-centered. We can even become self-obsessed. But when we spend time taking care of our soul and allowing us to get in touch with who we really are versus who we endeavor and desire to be, we're setting ourselves up for wonderful and joyful success. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But is it possible? Heck yeah, it's possible. That's why you are here. You're here because it is possible. So you were supposed to spend 15 minutes this morning, and you're supposed to spend 15 minutes this evening having a talk. TALK. Thank, ask and acknowledge, listen, and kind words, speaking kind words over your life. The T is thanking, being thankful for the journey, being thankful for the day, because gratitude is a tremendous part of helping the healing for our soul. The A is for asking and acknowledging for the help and the support and the strength and the wisdom and the grace and the peace and the everything else that you need. The L, of course, is listen. Listen to your own thoughts, but also listen to the Holy Spirit. And the K is kind words. You should be speaking kind words over yourself, because you have to replace lies with truth, and you have to replace words that bring bondage with words that bring liberty. Our journal assignment for today. So today we are journaling, and we are asking this question to ourselves and responding to this question in our journal. What are some of the decisions, experiences, and environments that have had the most memorable impact on you, good or bad? What are some of the decisions, the experiences, and the environments that have had the most memorable impact on you, good or bad? You're going to journal about that if you have not already done so. Hopefully, and perhaps you have some additional things to add to that response now that you've had an opportunity to get the information in this general session. Go back and listen to this as often and as many times as you need to. We're jumping over on Zoom in just a couple of moments, and we're going to work through the study guide on Zoom. So you got a few moments to kind of process this information, take it in, let it sit with you, let it rest on you. If you have not yet registered for deeper contact, you have the Eventbrite link. I think I also put the Eventbrite link there in the description of this video. You can utilize that link to go on Eventbrite and secure your spot in deeper contact, where we're going to work through the study guide. So when we get into the study guide, we're going to be dealing with further information about what our soul is comprised of. We're going to be talking about the frontal lobe and the impact of our brain concerning our personalities and our expressions, and the list goes on and on. It's going to really be amazing, and you get the chance and the opportunity to interact with others and ask some questions if you have any. All right? We got a little intermission here, and I will see you shortly in deeper contact. Take care.